What up, everybody? I want to say thank you for listening to this brand new episode of the No Rhyme or Reason podcast. We appreciate every single one of you for tuning in to our show. But there's a small problem. We need you to subscribe on your device, whatever it may be, whether you're checking us out on YouTube, whether you're checking us out on Facebook, no matter where you hear this, subscribe or follow the podcast so you can be alerted as to when we create a new episode for you. We've even added a link down in the description for you where you can just by one click subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Just in case you miss it, you got something going on, you're busy, we ask you to subscribe to the No Rhyme or Reason podcast. Enjoy the show. Yo, you are now tuned in to the No Rhyme or Reason podcast, presented to you by On The Map Music Group, featuring Icarus Gray, and I'm your homeboy WordPlay T.JAY. We deliver to you a dope conversation where we talk about everything for no reason at all. Tune in every Monday to join in on the conversation. And without any further delay, this is the No Rhyme or Reason podcast. And we're live.
Yeah. What's up, people? It's your boy Icarus Gray.
And it's your homeboy WordPlay T.JAY.
And this right here is the No Rhyme or Reason podcast, where we talk about everything.
Everything for no reason at all. Oh man. So we have a special guest in the building. Second time on the show. Not many people do this twice in a row, but Kim Interdonato is back, and she has a new book. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hi, everybody. It's such a great time for the first time. I couldn't wait to come back.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to it because your personality, like, works perfectly with with this. It's like this perfect harmony and balance and spontaneity. So I really enjoy it.
Me too. Yeah, keep writing books.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely keep writing books. So this new book, speaking of, can you give the people the title and is it out already? Like. And all these details.
Yeah, it's out. It's called Heel Skates. The first book was called Shoes Are Like Men, which was a little sillier. This one's a little bit more on a more serious note. It's about being a woman in a male-dominated world. It's so much more interesting, I think. I mean, I thought the other one was a lot of fun and it was silly and good and comical. But this one's got a little bit more of a serious tone to it. And also, I talk about my job in it a lot and what it's like to work with men and what it's like to be in a male-dominated world.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my book.
So that's what I took away from it in short, for sure. But I wanna get something cleared up from the beginning. So it felt like a memoir, and it felt very autobiographical, but there's like a disclaimer early on in the book that said this is a work of fiction. So I want to clear that up. I want to know, like, is it mostly fiction? Is it mostly memoir? Where are we judging from?
You know, it's funny. You know, when I read it too, I asked my publisher about that. I said, this is my life. I don't know why he had put that in there, to be honest with you. I feel like that part's more fiction. That was absolutely 100% my entire life. I was like, why did you put that? And I told him not to put that in there. And they asked me and they put it anyway. I'm like, I think they were just covering themselves.
Yeah.
I guess in case anyone tries to sue. I guess in case anyone tries to sue us, that I named in the book. Because I actually named people in the book, but I named them in a very nice light. So I don't know
the
why
wording throws people off.
Yeah, the wording does throw everyone off.
Let's just score one for Icarus over here for calling that.
Yes,
yeah.
I have to
well,
say
I mean,
awesome.
I know that's what they were doing. I just wanted to know your
I just wanted to
Kim.
no. I'm just calling it only because it was like one of those things where I'm like, I called it because of how people act, and I was like, this is 100% gotta be why, because people will, like, even if it's glowing, just be like, well, I didn't smile that much.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it was. So nobody can come back and sue me. I'm like, okay, no problem. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
yeah,
Go ahead,
libel
T.
like are libel suits that even that. I'm trying to figure out how
I guess
serious
so.
that would be. Like how
I-
really?
but I feel like they've seen a case of it before, which is why,
Gotcha.
like, I'm sure the one person like didn't do it. And again, like
Right.
I said, it was just awful. Like, I didn't smile that much. I wasn't there. I don't want to be
Right.
associated with you. And it's like, okay, like I don't know what they got from it. That's the different thing.
I guess you get a good lawyer. I guess you can get anything out of anybody, which
Yeah,
is sad. I don't have much to sue so far. So go ahead if you want.
try it.
Um,
Right, it'd just be
Yes,
locked up in
like,
court.
but I enjoyed a lot of themes of the book, but I kind of wanted to tackle the chapter, I think it's called A Man's World,
right.
a little bit more, because I felt like you wanted to say a little bit more in that chapter, but we're trying to like that, trying to like not offend people. But in this climate nowadays, like I want people to be able to say, their truth. And basically, how difficult is it working in the proverbial man's world?
I don't really find it too hard, but there's days like today. I'm one of the guys who's just, I mean, he was just, I can't say anyone nicer, just being a tool.
Mhm.
He's like, the quality of work around here is horrible. And I'm like, looking at him going, I hope to God you're not talking, and I think you always kind of take it on, it's you, especially since
Mhm.
I'm kind of like the odd one out. Um, and I know my quality of work is impeccable, but, I'm sure he was just in general saying it because he said about one of the other guys. And he's like, the call, and like I kind of took it a little personal because he's a friend of mine, and everyone's doing the best they can, and we're all trying to make a living. But he's like, the quality of work around here is horrible, and I'm like, don't, and you take it on to be that criticism. You take it on to be yourself sometimes, and I'm human. I do it like everybody else, and you second guess yourself constantly, and you question yourself: Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? But I think being the oddball out, and you are odd. I mean, I'm oddball out. I'm blonde hair, a woman on hockey skates. It's definitely I'm definitely different, and I teach different than the guys do. I am really focused on what I'm doing. I'm with the kids. I'm skating a lot more with the children than the guys do. And I said in the book, I'm in a fishbowl, and it's hard. It really is. It's difficult being a woman in this sport. You can't screw up, because one screw up, everyone knows it. I
Yeah,
feel like
and that's the only thing they talk
I
about.
went to an event on Tuesday, and I actually wore a dress, and people wouldn't even come up to me and talk to me, like some of my clients wouldn't come up and talk to me because they saw me in such a different light. It's so weird. It's just so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know
Is, is
I mean,
is it
obviously I
that
don't look like this when
intimidation
I'm
factor?
skating.
Is that an intimid?
um
Is because that sounds like a weak
yeah.
point on the people that don't want to come and approach you, right? So it's not
um
your weakness; it's
yeah.
their weakness that's kind of shining.
Yeah, and you know what? But most people, I think, are standoffish when they see something different, and
True.
and especially when you're doing what I'm doing. I'm different. I teach different. I look different. I'm very different, but the results that I get are amazing. I have a pro skater. I have a college kid. I've got kids on junior teams. I have very high level skaters, and I also have low level skaters. I feel like you can if you're an incredible instructor, if you can teach the most untalented kid to have talent and love what he's doing, to me that's an accomplishment. These guys have to have everybody, the whole profile. It's all about the look, and it's like, yeah, it is about the look. But if you're good at your job, you're secure. But a lot of people aren't secure with themselves, so
Mm.
they're gonna put that on other people.
That's also something that I got from reading the book. Like, how long did it take for you to actually feel comfortable with yourself? Because I was getting the points of like, when you finally decided to kind of that these two things aren't really that different. It's just a part of me. So like, what was your journey to getting to acceptance of the fact that you're not what is quote unquote normal?
Um, I was really intimidated. I was doing hockey at first, and in the book I say that I do hockey at first,
Hmm.
and then I stopped doing hockey, and then I started to figure skate. I was doing figure skating for a while. Then I went back into the hockey world, and it was really intimidating for me to go back. One, I was older. I think you kind of like everyone receives you in a different light. At this point, I made such an impact on the figure skating world that everyone knew me as a figure skater, and to change my entire business over, I'm like, oh my God, people are still going to always look at me as a figure skater. And they did for such a long time. It took me about a good 3 or 4 years to really start feeling comfortable. The last 2 years, I really got into my groove. And now I'm like, I can teach. I'm like, I wouldn't feel unconfident about teaching somebody, or I'm like, like I would second guess myself. Now I can teach anybody. Nothing intimidates me now with teaching.
Of all the auxiliary jobs that you had from the bank and everything else, which one made you feel the furthest away from what you actually wanted to do? I was telling TJ earlier that we do this kind of Hollywood shuffle thing where it's like we end up with all of these little jobs that aren't really satisfying to
Oh,
what it is that we want to do. So which of those jobs was that for you?
probably was a wine tasting job. I'm not a big drinker to begin with.
Hmm.
So that was completely out of my comfort zone. I did that job because I was doing wine tastings, and someone said, you do great at being sales, you're doing great at sales. And I tried it, and, I had to go into the city to do wine tastings. And felt like I was so far removed from skating at that point, and I hated it. And I'm like, I'm just doing this so I can float, the house and my bills until skating picked it up. I didn't want to get away from it, and that's what was
Hmm.
happening. And I just hated it. I really just didn't like it.
I could see that because that is a very stark difference. Like I could feel like the bank job would feel more grounded in in social interactions and things of that nature versus um that where it's like you're kind of trying to give someone an experience, but it's only like a part of you, like having a nice wine with dinner or something like that. And like just because I'm great at like, hey, you should pair this with this, doesn't mean I
Right.
necessarily want to keep doing that. So blah blah blah, in evolving from all of these different experiences in your life that we're reading through the book, like when you were saying, I think the first time you wore heels down in New Orleans, like
Yeah, that was a good one. No, it wasn't the first time, but that was a really bad. That was a really bad fall, I would say.
um that was that the way you kind of tell the story from like perception is one of the overarching themes of the book. So in that instance, like what was going through your head? Like you explained it to say like, you didn't want people to think you were drunk and so like
And I know the theme of the book is really about people's perspective of you,
mhm,
and you always want to, especially when you meet somebody for the first time, you always want them to see you in a good light,
mhm,
and that impression that I made on those people, thank God I don't think I'll ever see them again in my rest of my life, and hopefully I'll never remember what happened.
mhm.
But um, wow, that was a doozy. I have to say, it was embarrassing. It was
What
completely
place in New
embarrassing.
Orleans was
But
this?
oh, the Hurricane.
Hurricane. Okay.
There's a bar that has the Hurricane. They have the famous drinks of hurricanes, and it's a very
Hmm.
famous bar in New
Yeah.
Orleans.
Yeah.
I can't remember it, and it had just like a couple of steps, and boy, did I slide down that good. I made such a bad impression.
Wow.
Mm.
So I
Um,
wanna
I can't remember the name of it.
backtrack. You had a statement that sort of goes along the line of that you would give up on your dreams when you found a boy, or you would sort of let up, not necessarily give up, right? So you do it a little bit less, or you wouldn't wake up in the morning to go to and go and practice. Like, do you find that to be a common occurrence in your life?
Now, no. I'm a lot more focused now. When I was younger, absolutely. Like anything would have taken me off my focus. Oh, hey, listen, you want to go out with your friends? Okay. But then, I always had my grandparents who were such a great influence on me to kind of reel me back and go, well, you can't really go out tonight. You can't go out with your friends because you got to go skating, and this is important to you. And then, they think about it for a minute and be like, you're right. This is important to me. I really want to become a skater, and this is what I want to do, and this is the sacrifices I have to make. But, as a kid, those are hard things. Those are hard choices. Even my students, I find, you know, to motivate them and keep them interested. It's really hard.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. The reason why I asked is because I think I find it in a lot of lives, not only in childhood, because childhood is really distracting to anything that you're trying to do, because there's so many changes happening. But even in adulthood, I find that a lot of times we kind of punt the things that we want to do, or the things that we've been putting off for like love and the relationship and this thing. And it's not that love isn't that important. I just find that a lot of times you find it along the way, and sort of supports your lifestyle, not takes away from it.
That's when you find the right person too.
True.
Shoes are like men. I mean, you can see how many guys I've dated. So, you know, and what's funny? It's like I actually was offered to make the book longer, and it was pretty easy because I really put a lot more people in there. I'm like, wow, I really dated a lot. And I think if you find the right person to lift you, that's important. But it's
Yeah.
hard to find. And you got to find people that are going to lift you in your life and not drag you down. And I think if you have a really good energy, no matter if it's a relationship, any kind of relationship, the people at work, if they're going to lift you up, I always kind of hang out with the people at work that lift me. The people like that are going to down me, those are the people I don't really skate next to,
Yeah.
or really kind of skate away from. And even in relationships, if the people I date now, I'm like, if you're not going to lift me, if everything's all about you, then this isn't going to work. And
Yeah.
I've gotten rid of a couple of them. And I think as you're older, I think you're more secure with yourself, and you're able to go, I'm good. I can do this on my own. I always say all the time, I'd rather struggle by myself than struggle with somebody else. If you're not there to
Yeah.
help me out, this isn't going to work.
What do you think about that, Icarus? Like, because that was sort of my follow up, is to kind of probe you for it as
Right.
well.
Well, we just got done talking about this in a in an episode somewhere around here. Um
A previous
like,
episode.
previous episode that you know, me and my wife have that connection with one another. That was something that we were seeking for each other, is to have the stability of that support system and love. And while trying to do our dreams, like, we would do stuff for our dreams, but the focus wasn't as nailed in. And there were like great times, so don't get me wrong, like, it's not saying like when you're single you just can't get your stuff together. But upon getting back with one another, that's when the podcast started.
Yeah.
I did a new song, and started working on my music again, and her recording things, and she did a play, and like all of these things started to happen because there's this comfortability that's now available at home, with us, or in our hearts, because we were searching for one another in our relationships, in the relationships when we were separated or whatever. So it's just one of those things that kind of allows you to see your career in a different light, because instead of just being like, it's me, like, I can, as long as I can eat and make sure my bills are paid, I'm good. Like, yeah, I'll get to a house around whatever. It's more like, okay, now we have, like, I need the home that I wanted, or we need the career building things that we wanted. We need these legacy type things. Is how our mindset shifted.
Yeah. So, Kim, why even put on the heels if they hurt so bad? if
because
the
they just
pain
look
is
so
there.
damn good. They look good. They look really good, and I gotta be honest with you, you feel good in them, and
Yeah.
you're not wearing them all night long. I'm not drugging a marathon in them. I go to, you go out to a nice bar. And then I kind of have this little line that I do. It's kind of funny. I'm always telling everybody, I always find like, a nice looking guy or some guy I actually want to talk to. I'm like, excuse me, sir, I know you're sitting here. Can I sit down because I'm wearing sitting shoes in order for me to look really pretty? Um, I have to wear these beautiful, beautiful shoes. So can I sit down? And usually 9 times out of 10, the guy will give you a seat.
Yeah.
Um, and you're sitting down anyway, so it's not so bad. Yeah, as I said, you're not running a mile in them. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I think about it because it's funny to me. I wonder how many people put themselves through discomfort in order to feel confident. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because that's what I
That's very good.
you know what I
I,
mean? Like that's
look,
something that I just kind of went through psychologically. For a long time in my life, I was just like working really hard, and it was kind of compensating for confidence. You know what I mean? And so when you become more confident, do you wear the heels less? You know what I mean? Is that it?
Yeah, you might. I might. I've been wearing flats a lot. But I just like them because they make they. I just like them. I really have this like affliction with shoes. I don't know why. Evidently, I'm writing books left and right with shoes in them. I just think they look pretty. Even if they're flats, I still think they're pretty. I have
Yeah.
some flat boots I love.
Yeah. So it's not
I,
even that
I
weird.
have I have the male equivalent. The male equivalent is basketball shoes, and the reason why
That's
basketball shoes are
right.
football shoes that you actually play in. That's the caveat of this, because I realized this. Like if you ever see, or even soccer players are probably the best example of this.
Hmm.
Like you're literally doing something that is going to kill your feet, and you're going to be in such pain, but it's just
Well, if
like.
football is gonna kill everything else too.
You guys evidently haven't figure skated. Figure skating kills your
Oh,
feet. Oh, it's
Yeah.
like it's. I feel like you're. I swear, that's in the book. It's
You
like you're
say your spine was
squeezing.
twisted. Yeah.
Oh my god, but your feet. You're putting your feet in like this. You're just squashing them in a skate, and then you're tying them
Hmm.
up, and you're putting them on there for hours. It's
mm.
like I even today, my feet were hurting. I had lace bite on my hockey skates, and I'm like, oh, and they're usually comfortable.
Yeah. I've had to break in cleats before, so
Ooh,
yeah, I understand the feeling.
man, it's
Yep.
It's
just
just
like,
that's just kind
but
of
you
one
just
of
keep
those
doing it.
parallel metaphors
Yeah,
that really had me intrigued. That we just kind of put ourselves through a lot of discomfort in order to feel comfortable, which is so ironic. So
but it's
ironic.
like it's kind of like in a video game or something. Like, so you get all of these plus stats, but there's one that's minus. It's
Yeah,
just like discomfort is -1, but confidence
of
plus
course.
10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
Appearance
you
plus
go.
10. It's like, yeah, like
yeah,
even though that pain will turn into, like discomfort outside of this, like for this amount of time, it's like, but I looked good. I felt good,
right.
and I got the work done.
Yeah.
It's such
So
an odd exchange.
the distribution of it just kind of evens out.
Yeah,
That
but
makes
that's kind
sense.
of what we're doing, in life in general. So, what are some of your? Because I'm gonna make a sports statement after I ask this question of you.
Okay.
But what is your favorite things about hockey in general? Because to do it in the way you do it, there has to be a deep love there, and there has to be a lot of aspects of it that like make you excited and feel like,
Oh my God, I could talk about this forever. I actually had a conversation with somebody last night, and we were out to, a whole bunch of friends were out for dinner, and a friend of mine came over, and I teach his son, and we were talking. Me and him ended up sitting there talking for about a good 20 minutes. I was completely ignoring everybody else because we were talking about the physics of skating. It is
mm,
so cool. The physics behind my job, and that's making me want to learn more, and that's want to make me watch more videos. It wants to make me slow up videos and watch the way the blade is worked and how I can make my skaters more proficient on their edges. I love it. I could talk about that for hours.
please do, and explain the physics of hockey. You said physics, and I was like,
Okay, the physics of it is, and I try to put it simply because I'm not a big physics person. I'm not, like, listen, I tell everybody, listen, I'm not a bright person. I'm not the smartest person you're ever going to meet. But I will tell you, I found these fundamental things. Like what I had in the book is I spin a quarter for every one of my kids. And I take the left pole and the right pole of the quarter. And once you spin it, you have that middle part. It's called your axis. If you can get your body over an axis when you're skating, you're going to have your good balance. And if you see a hockey skate has a blade that's curved. It's curvature. And if you push on a certain part of your blade, from going from one part of your blade to the other, you're going to go faster. It's just like driving a car. I always tell everybody, the harder you press down, the faster you're going to go. Or if you're playing a video game, like you can relate to my kids. I always tell them, if you're playing Mario Kart, when you push down the button, the faster you're going to go. You let up on the button, that's slower you're going to go. Same thing with your knees. The harder you press down your knees, the more pressure you can put down on your skate, the faster you're going to go. It's the same principles.
Because you're
principles
like
are
melting the
right.
ice, reducing the friction.
Absolutely.
Bam.
Absolutely.
I
Oh
paid
my gosh, you guys
attention
got
in
it.
physics.
You got it.
Totally.
Good job.
You got the right ones today.
Yes. Oh my God. I love talking about this. And you know what? And I think, it was so much fun with Shoes Well Like Men. It was such a silly book. And you talked about silly things like dating and boys and things like this. But this is what I really love to talk about. This is what my passion is.
Yeah. And that's what that's what I got from the book in terms of like this. We all go through this journey of self-acceptance. And what I was telling TJ is about around the time that you started to kind of like accept yourself was around the time that, we would have been growing up and things at that point. And our generation seems to allow people to have more of be yourself, true to yourself.
Absolutely.
And I feel like, or I'm seeing in this, in this ripple effect of it's just like, well, because I'm sure I try to get these words together. Did you learn some things from your students in that light?
Absolutely. And I have to say, millennials and people in that age group, I actually look up to because, I'm 40, 46.
You said 22?
I'm 46.
22, yeah, okay.
18, that's fine. You're legal. You're okay to be on here.
I'm old enough to be your aunt. But no, I'm 46. So, at 46 years old, back then when we were younger, now look at the Harvey Weinstein thing. Okay. I'm just going back to that. Okay. The women that came forward were younger women and they just weren't going to put up with what my generation was putting up with. My generation, you just hushed and you be quiet and you just did what you were told. And you didn't say anything because you were going to be ridiculed. Your generation is we stand up for what we believe in and we don't care what people think. And we're going to put it on social media. And I am so impressed with that the confidence in the young women today and young men today are so much better than my generation. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's only going to get higher, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But that's what was given to us from those in front of us. So, the things that you do for your son, like, hey, I don't want you to have to deal with the things that I had to deal with. Like small things that you're doing that aren't millennial based or whatever, but it's like, okay, so I worked a little harder so you didn't have to go through this time period, or I made sure that, I helped study with you so you didn't have to go through this that I went through. So we're able to focus on our environment because what's around us is solid and it's more solid than what it's been. So we were able to explore who and what we were. And then it's like, you instantly know in each situation, like, nah, this is not me. I'm not comfortable with this. Like, we're not going to continue to, like, I don't have to sleep with you, sir, to advance my position. I don't have to take all this stuff away. Like, I can tell people, hey, this is what you tried to do, and it's just not, it shouldn't and hopefully will not happen anymore. And I've just been overjoyed with the fact that this is like the constant state of being. And I think that your book will inspire and should inspire a lot of women to just be yourself. You can like hockey and still go out, or you can like hockey and like biology, like you can like hockey and want to go ride a unicycle. Like it doesn't, whatever combination of person you are is what you can be. And I think that's kind of what your book promotes to people. Is it's just like, yeah, I love hills and they hurt me, but I don't care. Like I'm gonna like I'm gonna teach these kids. Like I'm gonna have fun. Like I'm going to assert myself in a way in this dominated world, because it doesn't matter, because the way I teach is going to and is helping the maturation of all these kids that are coming to me. So it's just like, what,
I think my famous line these days, or when people say, "Oh, you're a woman," I was looking for a guy instructor. I said, "Listen, my work speaks for itself, and at this point, I can pick and choose the students I want to work with, the ones I don't want to work with." And I love being at that point in my career. I do. I am at such a great point in my career.
So, I have a question about sort of the overall kind of body of work. So in this piece of work, I felt like in some places I'm dying with curiosity for more details, like the little stuff, like kind of fly on the wall sort of details. Is there a favorite story from here that you literally had to like take stuff out of, that you feel like, not necessarily like personal stuff, but like something just, more like, say for example, I believe you were talking about your grandfather, right? So like,
Yeah.
did you want to give more information about him to big him up,
He was such a great guy. He was a strong man. And we used to bicker and fight, and like every kid and teenager with their parents, because they were more my parents than my grandparents. I could have gotten really into detail with my grandparents.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard for me to talk about them because they are gone. And
Of course.
and they were so inspirational in my life, especially my grandfather. Like he was like the strong silent type. And he was more of a, do. He was like watch what I do, not what I say kind of person. And he lived his life like that. And he was just a hero in himself. I mean, the man was a war hero and never even talked about it.
Yeah.
I found out about this later on in life, and it was only when I found out, and I knew about that story, that him saving someone else's life was. I found out when he passed away. He never said anything when he was alive, and I think that was a noble thing. That was a noble trait about him. He wasn't all like about the flash, like look at me, I saved someone's life, and I did this, and
because nowadays you have soldiers taking selfies. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And
he was nothing like that. He was just a quiet man and never talked about it. And, and that was his personal thing, that was his personal life, but he just didn't, he wouldn't open up, but that was him, where I'm more open, obviously, because I'm writing books about my love life,
What would you say is one of the greatest things that he taught you?
God, he taught me so many great things. Being strong and being independent was one of them. And I think as women, and I grew up in a household with my grandmother was always dependent on my grandfather for financially and stuff like that. And he used to always tell me, don't depend on anybody, because nobody's going to, no one's going to be able to, financially take care of you, do it yourself. And he was right. That's one thing. His strength was unbelievable.
I think that's a different balance of today. The independence versus, relationship type stuff. Like men, because of hypermasculinity, want to feel needed, and it's difficult to feel needed with, in this independent society where it's like, I'm going to get up and get for myself. But at the same time, you're holding up a facade, because if you're out here working 12 jobs to keep up with these rent prices going up everywhere, then and not being able to like humbly ask for help of any kind in this situation, where it's like, because all of a sudden you feel threatened because she will work just as hard as you will to finance the things that you're trying to get out of life. Is that something that you deal with in your relationships? Just the balance between how independent you are and everything else?
Yeah, sometimes I think I depended myself to death, but my grandparents were pretty progressive. You
Mm,
know, as old school and old world as they were very progressive. You know, it was always like, you know, take care of yourself, and then you take care of your husband, you take care, you know, so they had a really great balance. You know, my grandmother, you know, my grandmother worked, you know, when I met her, you know, obviously when I was born, she didn't work, you know, but prior to that, she was working doing lampshades, and her hands would bleed because when my grandfather was in the war, she would have to work to keep you know,
Right.
she would have to keep, you know, to keep the family up.
A lot of
So, you
women
know, you
did,
don't hear
right, at
about
that
those
time.
things. Right, exactly. And you don't hear about those things. You just think that they're house mothers. But my grandmother worked, and she was really a very strong woman. And I'm sorry that I didn't realize that as much when she was living, as more as
Yeah.
I did when I hear more stories when she passed away, which is sad.
So I thought
mm,
about sort of that concept of female independence, and I think there's right now sort of a push and a love for feminism, but there's sort of a perversion of it too, right? So it's sort of like I want to take on these really bad traits of guys and then shine as a woman too. But I really think that women have some really amazing traits that they should you know like big up and still be you know that independent side. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to. I mean, everything's a balance, and you know, you got to keep
Yeah.
everything in balance and check. And you know, at first, when I first became into the hockey department, I was, you know, or I go out and I would tell people what I did for a living. I was, you know, I was actually embarrassed telling people what I did for a living. I'm like, oh my God, they're really going to judge me. They're going to think I'm a butch. They're going to think I'm like, you know. But you got to let yourself shine through. You know, listen, I love wearing heels. I love getting dressed up. I love looking pretty. That makes me feel good. I do it for myself, not for anybody else. And when
Yeah.
I start doing it for other people, you know what? I think I lost it. I think that's when I lose it.
Yeah.
do you have a favorite story in the book?
Uh, probably one in New Orleans is probably my favorite, just because that, you know what, just because it shows me that you know, like, you know, you always need that down to earth moment that you're human, you're human, and I do stupid things. Believe me, I do them all the time. But sometimes, you know, your stupid things turn out to be some of your funniest things, and my worst mistakes turn out to be my best assets.
Like I said, that's funny because I was gonna say that that is one of my favorite stories of reading. It's just like, you know, like when we kind of realize these things, like you were saying, that kind of happen to us, and how we can kind of learn from it and look back on it, like, and then you also giving the perspective of what you presumed like people would think, and it's just like everybody probably would have been sitting there like, what is this drunk lady doing? And then it's like, you know, I'm just gonna walk out like, all right.
You know, and you know, like I'm going into this thing, I'm going into the bar and I'm feeling good. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking great. I look hot. I feel great. Boy, did that knock me down a couple of pegs. I'm like, oh, how humiliating.
Oh man, but I bet it made that first drink taste amazing.
That
Like,
it was a shot. Let's just put it that way. I'm like, all right, I need a shot after this
Yeah.
one.
So
okay, TJ, I was gonna say, care to take a guess on what that shot was? I have
that's
a
what I
guess,
was
but I was
about
gonna
to
see what
ask.
it.
That was my question. Like,
Ah!
so what is that? What is that
That was
shot?
so long ago. I don't remember. I don't remember. It was so long ago.
What's your
But yeah.
personal preference now? Is it like bourbon or is it something vodka?
Oh, no, you know what? I don't really drink that often,
Yeah.
but I was out with my girlfriend. It was like I was out, you know, we were doing the mommy club one night, and the kids were playing. We're at my girlfriend's house. It was totally safe. Nobody was driving. The kids were all sleeping over. And, you know, the girls are drinking mimosas, and then it started to go to wine, and then we're starting to do shots, and we're doing Fireball. Uh, let me
Oh,
tell you something. For a
What?
girl that doesn't drink, man, I woke up and I am sorry for saying I felt like ass the next
Yeah.
morning. It was
Yeah.
horrible. I'm like, oh my God, just kill me. I felt like someone was taking a knife and putting it right through my forehead. I
Yeah.
so yeah. Not pretty. I was not pretty that night. I was
You
really
didn't
just not
skate that
pretty.
next day, did you?
No, you know what? I didn't skate, and the sad thing is, thank God my ex-husband had the day off. I'm like, can you take Luke? I don't feel so good. I'm hungover. You want to tell my son?
Oh, wow.
Mommy drank a little too much. I went to bed. You all playing. Mommy went to bed because she drank too much. It was really embarrassing.
Oh man, there's nothing better than a good drinking story. Like my favorite TJ story is TJ drank so much he time traveled.
Oh yeah.
Did you go in the future or the past? Where'd you go?
It was in the future for sure. So there's been a few times where I've drank and mixed it with some other things and gone back into the past. but
Are those called booty calls? Hello.
Hey, you up?
Yo, the wordplay there was I like that.
Hey, you up?
That is amazing.
Oh man.
Are we still dating? I can't remember the year. Are we still dating? I really need to get lucky right now.
Wow.
Oh, that was
I like that one. But I this particular time I did travel into the future. Like I kept blacking out, and it was like me blinking my eyes in slow motion. So every time I opened my eyes, I was in a new place with a new person. and yeah, so it was really, really interesting to say the least.
Oh,
so you weren't like in a bar going, "Will you marry me? Will you marry me?
Oh gosh,
will you marry me?"
No. But
no. That would be a good story.
that would be a different twist on the story for sure.
I would love to be there for that if that ever happened to him. So right now you got 2 books out. You're a well-accomplished author. Just gonna go ahead and speak into existence. Are you thinking about more, or was?
It's funny. I actually was. Ironically enough, last night as we were talking, I was talking to this gentleman. I excused myself to go to the restroom. And I'm walking and I'm going, God, wouldn't it be great to do a book on the science of skating and actually get more involved into the physics of it and, start getting into that end of it, which I really thought I really wanted to look into. I'd have to actually speak to people that are really, really into physics and into that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you would have to co-author that with somebody that's really, really sciencey,
absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know how I would I'd interject shoes in there, but
yeah.
Well, I would say just like make it. Well, what you would do is the antidote to the physics aspect of it. So what I heard you say was, use my knees more. Like essentially, when you like have to put on that size 6 stiletto heel that you didn't realize didn't fit, but you don't have time to go get another shoe, so you got to push down, get your foot in there, and know that you have about a 30-minute lifespan before it's over. What I was going to say is I think an interesting book would be just your general revelations of your grandfather from your younger years to your teenage years to now, only because those type of relationships you can always read and tell come off the page, because especially if you've experienced that. I know TJ has, I know I have, with my grandparents. Like you see these moments that they wouldn't even remember doing these things, because they just did them out of love. Like you were saying, he walked and he did those things. So I think that would be an amazing book to read.
That's a really good suggestion.
You have a lot of, those stories of just perspective, because we don't realize how important it is to take in those moments, and like you're saying, you learn so much about your grandmother after. I think that if you wrote a book like that for this young generation, like every book you've written is something that will give someone a new perspective to go and do the things they want to do. The difference in man and shoe types, the accepting who you are and what it is you want to do with your dreams. And then I just think you have a lane of also giving people, like, you have to have the perspective and the knowledge to just kind of appreciate these great things while they're here.
That is an excellent suggestion. That's an excellent suggestion. Thank you. I actually will put that into I actually have my phone, things that I want to write about. I like get an idea in the middle of the night and I'll type it in my phone or I'll voice text it to myself. But that's definitely a good one. They're incredible people.
I don't know if I asked you this last time or not. I think I asked whether or not you have a favorite hockey team.
I think you did. I'm like, I think I said I'm a Ranger fan that doesn't hate the Islanders. I really am. You always have these Rangers. I hate the Islanders or these Island fans. These Rangers suck. It's like, if the Rangers play the Islanders, I'm going to root for the Rangers. But if in general, I want to see them both do well. And I gotta be honest with you, I kind of like watching any hockey. So my son's hockey games, and as we were talking on this, as we were talking on the interview, one of my junior players just called. He does like he's going, like it's a minor, it's junior hockey. It's like minor league kind of skating, and or minor league kind of playing. And they just texted me. He's like, "You gonna come to my game tonight?" And I'm like, I didn't text back. I'm in an interview right now, but it's nice that they want me to come to their games. I like watching my high school kids play. I like watching hockey. It's interesting to me.
Oh, man, see, I love that because I'm a Yankees fan who doesn't hate the Mets. So
there you go.
So, but then again, I'm not from New York, so I wouldn't have a reason to hate the Mets.
How often?
And I watch hockey. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you can go ahead. Go ahead.
I said, I watch hockey games so differently, though. I don't watch like the puck. I watch the skating end of it. It's so weird. I'm like, I think my brain just works differently when I watch hockey game.
Because if you watch the skating, I guarantee most times than not, you can tell like, oh, he's being underused, or this is why they lost. It's not because it's not because like you didn't get as many shots on goal.
Absolutely,
it's because you didn't like on the break. During these things, you didn't take enough advantage of the fact that you had this ability.
That it's funny because I tell my bigger guys, my little guys you can't explain to it. My bigger guys I can too. If you're turning your shoulders this way and you're turning on a player, well, you're gonna have to go this way. So you just kind of just told your defenseman or just told your other forward, I'm going to the left, so go around me on the right. Most times you're getting scored on is because of a skating mistake.
See, so it's not weird at all. It's kind of the way you watch. It's the same way that basketball players watch a game, and we know, like, hey, it's not really the screen. It's the fact that you didn't switch. It's the fact that you didn't run up forward. It's the fact that none of you really want to run plays to begin with, but there's not enough motion or not enough passing. So all of these things are analytical, nuanced things, but it's the perfect way to. Well, it's not the perfect way to watch, but it's the perfect way for us type people to watch.
I think for a spectator's point of view, you should watch for fun. But when you have a brain that's going like a million miles per hour, or you want to read into things more, you're going to watch sports differently. You really are. I watch sports so differently more than other people do, I think.
Yeah.
And any sport, basketball, football, I might not like football, but I'll watch it because the athleticism of the guys to me is just amazing. It's just amazing.
If there was one thing that you wanted people to take away from your book, if they can only read this or get this aspect of the book from this one thing that you're about to say, what would it be?
Don't give up. Don't give up on no matter what it is. There's so many times that I've wanted to give up and I've failed at so many things. I mean, you can look in the book. I failed so many times, but that made me who I am. I failed at figure skating, but if I didn't fail at figure skating, I wouldn't be the hockey instructor I am today.
Yeah. You gotta fail a lot.
Yeah, and it's okay. And I think everyone's so afraid to fail. And if you embrace it, that's not a bad thing. It's okay to fail.
Right. I don't even know if it's so much failing because we add that word because so you kind of need definitions. It's just experience. Like you need the experience. It's just like, okay, if I'm skipping rocks across the lake, if I just throw it, it's just gonna splash. That's not gonna skip it. Like, and if I did that, I learned it, and then it's just like, so I lean back, I give my arm, curve the right way, and I get it like, I'm just trying to get speed above the water, and then it skips. Like, but you have to kind of experience and gain these things to understand what works and what doesn't work for what you're
Oh
trying
my
to
God, that's such a great way to look at it. And we all say that, we fail with this, we fail with that. But you know what? My failures aren't failures. They were life experiences. If
do.
I didn't have the figure skating behind me, I wouldn't be half the coach I am now. I wouldn't know how to teach these edges. I'd just be like, okay, yeah, go out and skate and go as fast as you can.
Right.
Well, how? Well, now I know how to, as I learned the physics behind this figure skating, and that's what helped me out.
Right.
Maybe if we look at it as, different, different wording. Different wording would be better.
Speaking of failure, have many guys failed to ask you out on a date through skating or just in general?
I think so. I think it's, what, I don't date anybody at the ice rink, and I don't think I would date anybody at the ice rink because it's where I got to go.
Yeah.
And I actually married, my first husband was a hockey player, and I met him at the ice rink.
Yeah.
And I think that was the last hockey player I've ever dated. And it's not that I wouldn't
It's
date
kind of
them.
like
I
too
think
close to your passion.
Yeah, and it's skating's a very small world. It's such a small world. Everybody knows everybody, and I just want to have like I don't know. I want to be on a clean slate, and I want to be known for what I can do, not who I can do.
Oh, I saw it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man.
Do people still shoot the shot a lot? Do they try to come at you all the time?
I've gotten asked out several times, and what's so funny, because the banter that we go back and forth in the ice rink. Just an example. A couple of weeks ago, I came in and I was a little dressed up, more than usual, because I only had a couple of lessons. I was and I think I was going out afterward to a brunch or something, and I was wearing a low cut top, and I had my arms folded, so it looked like I was kind of busty. And two of the guys on the other end were talking about my chest, and the gay guy comes over. My friend that's gay comes over. He goes, "Put your arms down. Everybody's talking about your boobs." I was like, "What?" So I skate over to them, and I'm like, "You guys really need to get laid, because this is really not going to happen anyway." So, it's like a banter that goes back and forth. One of us bends over, and it's like, "Oh man, if I could, it's not."
Yeah.
We joke around a lot, but I've known these guys for so long, it doesn't bother me.
But I like that, just for the fact, because the locker room conversation gets such a bad rap nowadays, and it's not really the locker room, as we're coming to find out. It's more the the other people that are above the people in the locker room. Like, the locker room is honestly just an honest place,
right?
Yeah,
where we can joke and rib each other.
It's not about the it's when you cross the line, and you're sort of like, kind of on to somebody that doesn't really want you on them, you know what I mean, in that way.
Yeah.
When it kind of goes too far, then it's a different story. But I like that it's kind of funny that you get pursued and get watched on the ice, no matter what.
Oh yeah, and I even said, you're like in a fishbowl, so it's like, you can't, like, you wear something different, and everybody's like, today I had a baseball cap on and a different jacket on. I had 8 lessons today, and all of my 8 kids were late because I couldn't find me. I'm like, why? I look so different with a baseball cap on and a different. I said, I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, And you change your jacket, and everyone's, I'm like, it's just a wash,
Oh man, that is bad. That's always the point where you as a person are like, am I that predictable? Like,
yeah. I wear the same thing. I look the same all the time. So my hair and a hat was like, whoa, she looks so different, And as I told you, I went to a function on Tuesday for my son. It was a hockey benefit, and I wore a dress and boots, thigh-high boots, and it was a little as conservative, but not my normal hockey gear. And even my kids were looking at me like they wouldn't come up to me. A couple of my kids wouldn't come up to me. They're like, and the parents were like, "That's Coach Kim. That's Coach Kim." I'm like, "It's me, guys. You want me to yell at you? Do you make you feel better? I don't know."
Oh man, but that's the other thing that I think has to kind of be taught more, but it's difficult because there's a lot of sides to me. I know I'm just your teacher, but sometimes, when I leave here, I dress comfortably or how I want to dress. I'm still me, but so many times we have to like it's always like when you're in school and you go like to the store or whatever, and you see one of your teachers or something, and you're like,
yeah, exactly.
You can't quite get in trouble, but for some reason, you still feel like if you were like, "Hey, Mr. West," like you want to randomly call them by their first name or something like, but you're like, I feel like if I called you by your first name because I can at this point, that you would just suspend me or something as soon as we get back to school.
Speaking of, Mr. West was the one that my students had a problem with when we went there, but that's a whole nother tangent. So Kim, I I want to know, is there a lesson that you can apply from hockey or figure skating that you could apply to your relationship? So like some of the physics, right? Do some of the physics apply to like relationships? You know what I mean? Outside of the bedroom, obviously.
All right, now you got me. They probably just fall, you get up, and you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah,
you're gonna get hurt, and you just got to brush it off and keep going. Sometimes the most comfortable things are not the best things, and we all get into our comfortable way, and sometimes we don't leave people because we are so comfortable, and you stay in places that you shouldn't stay because you're comfortable. But if you don't go outside that comfort zone, you'll never hit that double jump. You'll never hit that next relationship if you stay inside that comfort zone.
That's perfect. That's like perfect.
Now, I'm going to give you one question from the EP. And of course, you prepared yourself because I told you I was going to do it anyway. Now, what's the song that gets you going on the hockey rink and you got to sing it?
Girl on Fire, Alicia Keys.
No. Not especially.
I gotta sing it?
Yep.
Oh, God, I just had such a day. All right. Oh, really gonna make me sing? I know you are. Mm-hmm. Oh, and I was just in the shower. I should have been practicing. Damn.
Can we all do it?
Yeah, we'll do it with you. Ready?
Good.
This girl is on fire. We're a terrible choir, by the way.
Oh, we are. Well, technically, it's just me and Kim. You were actually in choir as we.
Yes, you guys are definitely more in tune than I will ever be. And I've been yelling at kids in classes all day today. So like my voice is scratchy as it is. So yeah, sorry. I apologize.
I think that is still the best way for us to wrap this interview up is you are that girl on fire. This book is on fire. Your books are on fire and should continue to inspire people in a lot of different ways. Relationships are hard. Don't give up. Finding who you are and what you want to be is hard. Don't give up. Like it doesn't matter. You are going to get hurt. You're going to fall. But keep applying the pressure, keep bending down, and you'll go faster, you'll be stronger, your cuts will be more accurate, you'll be more graceful, and it doesn't matter because you're just gonna keep getting better. Now,
that's true.
Knowledge is for understanding and not to prove others wrong. This has been the No Rhyme or Reason podcast with your boy Icarus Gray.
And your homeboy Wordplay, T.J.
And we'll see you guys week after week after week. Never missing a beat. Peace. No Rhyme or Reason is an On the Map music group production.